That scared me. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our second Android workshop. Screen share work. Okay, sound good. So let's wait for another minute or two and see if there are more people coming. But in the meanwhile, I want to tell you guys about our plans for the rest of the semester. So after today, we're gonna get started on working on a more full functioning app together. And for right now, I want you guys to think about if there's any ideas for apps you're interested in. And we'll ask you to discuss and submit your ideas and suggestions at the end of the workshop today. So just keep thinking while we're working on other things. And we'll be working on one of the app ideas for the rest of the semester. And also, we'll be wrapping up on, I guess, the first quote unquote app for today. We'll be wrapping up in native Android and Golan, and then I'll demo the same app in Flutter and native Android and Java. And we'll be picking one of those tools as well for the rest of the semester. So if you have any ideas, feel free to discuss, let anybody know. Which ones of you weren't here last workshop 2 weeks ago? Anybody on Zoom? Okay, sounds good. Let's just get started then. So first of all, as you know, this is our team. We're not going to go through an introduction again, but for the most part, you'll see us here for every Android workshop. And then just a quick recap from last time to, I guess, define a couple of things we use a little bit better. To start with, we use Layout Manager, and this is actually not right. I'm just going to go back to this. So this is the Layout Manager, and it has 3 different modes. One is code, one is split, and one is design. Usually you open a design and you can drag layout elements, aka widgets, in here and design your screen. Alternatively, this corresponds to an XML file that actually declares all of your UI elements. So obviously it doesn't store all of your layout in visual form. This is where it's stored in the back end. That this is how your phone will know how to draw your UI. For the most part, we'll be working on the code side and only using design as visualization because there are some constraints and things that are easier to do with XML, even though I know the start looks a little bit intimidating, but let's go back to this. So yeah, so as I said, XML defines your layout. And if you look at the structure here, linear layout is a type of layout, and text view is a type of layout. And each layout, a lot of layouts can have children, can have things under it. And let's go back to this page. So linear layout is one of the layouts that we mentioned. It's just a row or column of things, of other widgets, and you can put, for example, button, text in them, and they'll be lined up one after another. And overall, any layout you will be making will be a combination of these widgets. So, for example, the one we're making right now is a linear layout that's vertical that contains a horizontal linear layout that has a edit text and a button, and then the outer linear layout also has another container that has another text in it. If we go back to what we're working on. And then one, I guess, terminology to mention is that there's this thing called an activity, which is basically just your screen. And we'll be mentioning it later when we're talking about how to interact with your UI from your code. And activity also handles the creation. The activity class handles the creation, start, pause of your app usually, and each activity, yeah, as I said, each activity is a screen, and the only one we'll be working on right now is the main activity. Okay, so let's just pick up where we left off. Going back to the code. So last time I asked you guys to, I guess, put in a button on the side here. Have any of you guys looked into that? And if not, let's start with this. So just based on what we did last time, do you guys are you guys feeling good with how we explain it? And do you still have more questions about how this works, how this XML code on the left corresponds to the layout on the right, maybe? Right. Yeah, feel free to interrupt if I'm not explaining something clearly, because I'm bound to miss something at many points. But so next step, I guess our plan is to add a button here so we can have a commit button to at least interact with, so to work off of from the code. 1 second. Okay. Any of you want to share some ideas on how we might do that? Anybody here? Maybe in person or over Zoom? Yeah. You want to use a mic so Zoom people can hear you.
I would assume that you'd put a horizontal layout on the very top section of the linear layout, and that would allow you to put 2 elements on the top row instead of just the one text.
Yep, and let's just do that right now. All right, I have some code ready, and I'll just explain as I go. Oh, well, I didn't import a file, but so we put a linear layout, and then we have an edit text, and then there's this special type of button called image button, and yeah, let's remove this first. So right now they don't have a size, so they don't have a width, so they'll be, well, normally you'll see them right next to each other, and just add the default size. Oops. So instead of using height and width here, I'm using layout weight. So what layout weight does is that assigns a weight to each element in a linear layout, and each take up something the amount proportional to that weight. But if you put 0, it would just take up whatever space is left at its position. Now let me do something real quick. So you can see here, I am missing the drawable here. I'm just going to download that real quick, and we can go back to the file structure as well. Yeah, you might not be able to see this as well in person, but basically on the left, this drawable looks for this resource folder, res folder, and yeah, so I have to exit the presentation mode. So there's not really a good way I can do it right now. But this is what we're trying to find. And let me just download this real quick. You should be able to find, if you search for, I guess, Android joyables icons, you will be able to find, yeah, you will be able to find a lot of icons that you can use for buttons and things. Just create a new file here. Actually, there's a better way to do it. So if you do image asset, there's this nice handy little tool that you can use for importing icons. So what we're gonna do here is tag launcher icons. That's not what. 1 second. I don't know what they're doing in the other room there. Yeah, this is actually what I meant. So as you can see here, there's this vector asset. You can import any icon that's from the material icon list, and we're just gonna pick is just a check. It doesn't really matter right now. We're just putting something there, and then we'll have color be white because our background is dark, and hit next. Put in the main res, so that's the one we're looking at. And just press finish. Let's refresh that again. Let's call it a different name. Let's go back into presentation mode. As you can see, on the right side, we now have a button with a check on it. Now, one thing about buttons is that when you click it, it does something. And this is what the on-click attribute is about. This just means, this just refers to a function in your actual, I guess, logic in your code that handles the click. Now let's go back to, let's go to the actual code. So this is the logic of an activity. So each activity has a class, and I send app compact activity. Don't worry about that right now. That's just assume that's an activity. And then main activity, again, is the one we were making our layout for. So this is going to be the main activity that we're worrying about. And as you can see, we had our activity XML called activity main, but here it's in camel case. So just know that there's a correspondence there. One quick thing. Okay, so now we said that we're gonna call on update name when we're declaring the button, right? But we don't have an on click. We don't have an update name function here, so we'll just declare one. This syntax might be a little bit strange to you, but it's colon, and that's what Android is. I guess Android is now colon first, so that will be like the default language that you'll be working on Android in. Even though it still supports Java, one day it might go away. Now, actually, any questions for now? There's one thing that I forgot to set up. If you forgive me for 1 second. Actually, I'm just gonna do this now. So there's this thing called binding, which means that you don't have to declare, you don't have to find your, I guess, find your widget from your view. And that's one nice little feature provided by Colin. I'm not gonna go over that right now. So if you're having exact same text, as same code, it might not work. But if I do this, I'm just gonna open it. Okay. The project I already have, where is this should work. Project. There. This window. Give it a couple seconds to load. Not gonna do that yet. Main Java. I don't know why it's called Java, even though it's colon. That's just some leftovers from the past. But yeah, so this should work. And so actually, let's go back. Let's go back to the layout first. And we'll just look at the code. So actually, I'm missing one thing. Yeah, so here, the main text view in the middle of the screen, we gave it an ID called main text, and similar thing here with edit text, we gave it name input, and this is what we're referring to here in the code. So main text refers to the main text in the middle, and then name input refers to the input box that we put on top. And again, another thing to notice is that the IDs are in snake case, and this is in camel case. You can just call this dot binding dot whatever you're referring to, and I'll send some information on how to set up the binding here, but this is how you would generally refer to these elements. Now, before we talk about anything else, let's just run it, and so we can see what's going on. Yeah. Remember most of the shortcuts, so that's what I have to do. So if you see on the top, there's this bar here. I don't know. I think yours might say no device available. If you have an Android device that has developer mode enabled, then you can just plug it in and run it on there. Or alternatively, you can use this Avd Manager, install, I guess basically install a new virtual machine of Android. I can find my window here. Okay, yeah. So a virtual machine of Android, then this is what it will look like if you don't have access to an Android phone. So all we're doing is type name, click the button, and then the middle text becomes hello name. And yeah, and this is our first app. How are we feeling about this first app? Any opinions on any of the processes? Yep. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, so this part is generally automatically generated. I try to keep everything in there. And then the main thing is the linear layout, and which has another linear layout. And then I don't think we used the frame layout last time, but this is just for centering the text view on the bottom. Any other questions or anything? Okay, sounds good. So personally, I think this whole XML and code thing feels a little bit tedious. It's a little bit better with, I guess it is a little bit better with colon with the ability to use bindings nowadays. But even then, it feels like, you know, you have to make sure that two parts match, and once your layout and code gets complicated, sometimes that can be somewhat of a hassle. What we're gonna do next is I am gonna write the first app in a different tool called Flutter. So I can tell you a little bit about Flutter. So if you go to flutter.dev, so Flutter is a cross-platform, I guess, cross-platform app development framework. It's also made by Google, but it does run for Android, iOS, web, now desktop as well. And personally, and it doesn't use this. It doesn't use this model of, I guess, declarative UI. Well, declarative UI XML, and then logic in another language. What it does, this uses a language called Dart, which is a little bit like Java, that handles both the UI and the logic. And what you'll see in a little bit is that the code will basically go together. It's a little bit like React, if any of you have experience with that. And personally, I think this is a much better experience. And if you want to follow along, you can go to flutter.dev, get started, and install it on here. But for today, you don't have to. I'll just do everything here on my screen. So exit that. Terminate. And I have another window ready. So here, so same thing, Android Studio, you can go to top left. And if you actually, sorry, if you go to settings and plugins, you can install the Flutter plugin as well. And what this does is it allows you to work on Flutter projects in Android Studio, and you can say new Flutter project, and everything will go from there. Again, this is just how we create it, but I already have one ready. So
we can't see.
Oh, my bad. That was on my screen. Yeah, so top, if you go to settings, you can add a Flutter plugin right here. Otherwise, I already have a project ready, but the way you create that is new and go to new Flutter project. I'm gonna go back to presentation mode. So this, actually, let's go back to the project structure first. So instead of having separate layout and logic, you can see here, if you go to the library lib folder, and then there's this one file called main.dart where everything will run from. So again, as you've seen in many programming languages, probably there's this main function, and that's just where your app starts. And this class my app is what defines your app. My app extends stateless widgets. A widget is the same thing as a layout element. Same terminology used with native Android. Stateless means there is nothing that no state, no changes that you keep track of. So it's just static. It's always going to look the same regardless of what happens. And this is where you specify the title of your app, the theme data, which is you can put whatever theme color you have here. That's wrapped around basically your entire app. And your entire it's in order to have consistent theming, then you'll have to refer to the theme and their context. But let's not worry about looks for now. Let's just make it function. So homepage is a stateful widget, and the homepage here is equivalent to what we had as our main activity. Terminology is a little bit different, but you can see there's constructor right here. Key is optional, and I don't think, yeah, key is optional, and then but title is required. But the nice thing about Dart is that you can have these shorthands for constructors. If it's just going to be this dot key equals key, this dot title equals title, you don't have to explicitly write it out. And key is from a super class. Just don't worry about that out. That's automatically generated. Let's look at this. Let's look at this starter app for now. Actually, let's jump into our app real quick. So quick. All right. And it's been built, so it's going to take a second. Let's pull up. I am genuinely curious what's going on in the next room. It seems like it.
And they have clusters.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, I'll just start explaining this. So everything is a class, I guess. But unlike Java, you don't have to write new here, even though it's equivalent, because you will have to write lots and lots of news and declaring UI. That's why they just said, hey, you know what? You don't have to write that. And yeah, so scaffold is the basic layout of your UI. Generally, if you're familiar with Android, you'll have the app bar on top, the floating action button on the bottom, or like some navigation bar on the bottom on the side, or top, I guess, extra settings button on the top right, or things like that. So the scaffold is just a template for that, and most of the things here are optional. Has it loaded? Let me check. Yeah, so this is what it looks like. Let's just find correspondence here. App bar. This is the app bar, and it gets from widget title, which says it's not working. Yeah, it gets widget title Flutter demo homepage. Let's do one thing real quick to make it a little bit easier. Always on top. Cool. So the nice thing about Flutter is that you can say you can do this. For demo homepage, just say Flutter, just say hello world, sure. And I can say Control S, and the hot reloads way faster than exiting and recompiling every single time. Oh, sometimes you might still have to if you run into some edge cases. Now let's look at the app first. So this right now, all it does is I press the button here, it adds one. It can't even subtract, but it does react to your input. So we're gonna look at how it does that. So again, so body of the scaffold is this whole thing, the white background and everything on top. And it has a widget called center, which centers everything. So instead of using, I guess, the style of XML where you say layout gravity equals center, or have equal space on the side, whatever you want to do, as you do with most markup languages, I just wrap everything I want into center, and I say, hey, everything I want to put in it in the middle is its child. And same thing, column. It's the same thing as a vertical linear layout. And here, here to center everything in a column. We say max main axis alignment center. And the column has children, which, as you saw in XML, is just nested elements. Same thing here. It's just called children. It's a list. Square brackets for list, similar to a lot of other languages. Text, again, we had text views in native Android. This is just called text. And same thing here, counter. So you can do, well, same thing as colon. You can, I guess, what do you call it? I guess you can embed variable into strings. I forgot what the exact name is called. You can just write $, and the variable, and it will just show up in the string instead of using string builder, or concatenate strings together with plus or string cat or whatever. You can just say, hey, I want a variable here. And let's not worry about the style. And so this always shows counter. Now, what does the button do? The button unpressed calls increment counter, and which is the same thing as what's it called, unpressed or something of the sort, and in the XML that we saw for native Android. Now let's find increment counter here. So for changing anything on screen, well, yeah, anything under your widget at least, you call this set state function. I think this comment explains it pretty well. Set state just tells the Flutter framework that something in your widgets has changed and it needs to redraw it, right? And the nice thing about set state is that it doesn't redraw the entire layout. It just redraws your widget in your current class. So everything in the, I guess, in the sub widget tree. So since, as we saw, everything, is nested in one another, right? And all we're doing here is say counter +1 or counter ++, and after that it'll redraw it, and that's where we will see the change. The underscore in front of it means a private variable. You don't have to write public private. It just, with underscore is private, without underscore it's public. Simple as that. Now, Now, so I'm gonna try to, I guess, demonstrate how we're gonna do the same app that we did in Flutter. Are you guys, I guess, do you guys feel like we need to go through that, or do you have a good idea of how to do it already, and we can maybe work on more collaboratively? Okay, then I'm just gonna go relatively fast here. So first of all, obviously we're gonna change the whole main layout. So I'll just type it in here, center 7 column. Well, actually, yeah, we're still doing a column. So these two, I say now. So first thing, a row. Enter, and then usually there's a thing called children. Yep. And you can see here the hint is pretty helpful in terms of telling you what types of attributes there are. Most of them are optional, just for extra customization. But if you're missing something, it'll probably be a red squiggly line somewhere under, and they'll give you a pretty good message. I think, personally, I think the IntelliSense is so much better with Flutter than native Android, but also I have not done any big projects in Kotlin. So personally, I think this is great. Now, what do we need in the row? First thing is text field, right? But instead of, actually, let's just do a text field. That's what it's called here. So text field needs, first of all, a controller. So controller is just how you get text fields, I guess, information, how you can control you can control its cursor, you can control its content, and this is just what it uses. Now let's just declare a controller here. What do we call it? Final text editing controller, private, because we don't want anybody else to use it and change our text. And we can just say text editing controller. No new needed. Oops. And okay. And actually, we can just Control S here. Text editing controller. Middle error. I think it's missing a couple more attributes. So the other thing about Flutter is that you can also do in VS Code, which gives you all the same features, but without all the Android hassles. I'm just gonna copy and paste everything we have here because these are not very important right now. And one thing about Flutter is that you will have a lot of opening and closing brackets, which can be an issue, but the nice feature that the plugin gives you is that it tells you what each bracket and parentheses close. And let's look at the issue here. Define name counter, I see. Yeah, I just deleted counter, that's why. Cool. Check operator using where it is actually. So something is no here. Increment counter. Yeah, increment. I see now. I'm just gonna remove this whole button and start clean. This is reloaded. Yeah, this is one of those situations where I have to restart. Oh, I guess not. Okay. So this is one. You need to use that. Okay, that's why. So the yeah, the exclamation mark is a no checker. That's why I was telling it it's definitely not null, even though actually here I didn't declare it, so it's actually null. Now, where is my text? Oh, I see. Separate row. It's kind of hard to see from here, so I just copy and paste right now. Which is good. So not wasting too much time. That again. My name style. Oh, there. And I should have left the app bar. Okay. App bar. Title. Should be widget instead of just string. Cool. Okay. Now we have the same thing. I'll just go through this instead of typing in live. Padding, instead of saying margin as an attribute, we say padding as a widget that wraps something else that needs padding. And then edge inset just means, well, insets from all the edges, top, down, bottom, well, top, down, left, right. And all just makes all four sides, and A is device points. So DP, I think, the same as we saw before. Row, again, exact same thing. Another padding because we want things to look not too bad. Now, okay, let's go back to text field. Text field uses this controller, and where we use this controller is here. So as text here, every time you refresh this, we say we get the text from the controller, and if it's not, well, if it's not empty, we just say hello world. If it is, we put the name into the string. So yes. Now, again, you see set state here. Are you guys familiar with anonymous functions, lambda functions, or higher order functions, anything like that? Okay, so basically, this is just a function, but without a name, and it can be passed. This is passed in here as an attribute. So what it means is that, okay, we start here. This is empty bracket, so that means no parameters for this function. And right arrow, I don't know why my arrow keys are being weird. But there, the right arrow just means to write is what I'm gonna return. Because usually, like if you want to write a function in a line, you don't want it to be a huge function. So using this right arrow just means, hey, I'm just gonna return that, right? And set state, I don't think returns anything. But we're just calling set state again with an empty body this time because we are already, the text is already in text editing controller. We just fetch it each time every time it updates. So we can totally say, hey, some other string is equal to text editing controller, and then we say text editing controller, or we say use the other string in the text. But either way, set state will refresh the page. Now, the only thing, yeah, and as you can see, the icon is also here. We just declare an icon object, and that's it. There really isn't a ton to explain here. I guess my question is, do you like this style better, or do you prefer what we did with native Android last time and earlier before this? This one? Yeah. Wait, you want to use a mic?
Yeah, I like this style a lot better because I have some experience with Java, and
Yeah.
this reminds me a lot of Java. So it's a lot easier to understand than with like Kotlin, where you're using two different files, one just for the visual and one for the functional.
Okay. Anybody else wants to share their opinion? Tim, if you're trying to speak, I don't think we can hear you. It's a little bit better. Okay, never mind. All right, anybody else? I think this is, so we're gonna decide between native Android or Flutter here, like probably today, later today, or early on next time. Before next time, sorry. And personally, I prefer Flutter as well, just because, yeah, you get this consistency. Although it is also easy to write spaghetti code because everything is all together. But I would say that this is much easier to learn, and definitely Flutter definitely has better documentation than native Android as well, in my opinion. And the tools that are here are also just way easier. Even though the code can get big, that's why you gotta separate things. But it also has these nice features like just generate a comment that are not actually in your file. One last thing I want to show before we head out, since we don't actually have a lot of time, is that is that for the same thing we can also write in Java. But I'm just gonna open finish code. I don't know if we've shared the repository on Discord yet, but if we have not, we'll be doing that sometime in the near future, and all the code will be on there. Give me a second. This is more akin to the one we saw before. So actually, even the Flutter project has this structure under it, but it's all auto-generated, and you don't have to look at any of it. And it also has another folder called iOS, web, wherever you want it to run on. Here, let's go back to Res. So this is the exact same layout as we had before, and the code is the same as before. But you can do the same logic in Java, which just says that. So we have to declare two widgets for name, input, and text. And instead of using the whole binding thing, we say this widget is find view by ID. Again, we have the input to edit text widget called name input, and we just say r.id.name input, and then Android will find it for you. And that's how you get the widget itself on your screen. And this is more akin to like your normal Java code. I say text equals text.setText, and then I get the text from name input, and then you have to do a toString as well because I don't gives you a warning if I don't. I think there's something that you can't explicitly translate a string. I don't remember why. That's something about the type that. Okay, yeah, that returns to editable. That's why you have to explicitly call it toString. But otherwise, it's pretty much the same. If you're familiar with Java, this should be fairly easy to read. How do you feel about this comparing to Kotlin? So how do you feel about like all three of these options? Any participation here will be very much welcomed. Again, this will be whatever we choose here today will be what we will be using for the rest of the semester. Personally, I prefer Flutter as well, for sure. But if you want to do Java, if you want to do Kotlin, if you want to do native, I will also be okay with that. Yeah, okay, sounds good. Yeah, let's just start with Flutter next time then. So I guess I asked you a question of any app, if there's any app that you want to make, I guess want us to make together. Any ideas right now? So if we don't, just keep thinking about it. So I have some backup stuff. So we can always make something like a simple calculator. So also always something we can do. Or there's an idea I have for a to-do app, but instead of putting everything in a list, I display it in the form of stack of cards. So you only see one at a time. And you can dismiss them if you're done. You can put it to the back, but you always have to focus on your priority. I think that's a somewhat, I wouldn't say it's more involved, but I think that you can add a lot more features to it than a calculator. It's something that we're less familiar with, but also I have to spend a little bit more time explaining like the idea itself. Does either of those sound interesting to you right now?
Yeah, I think the to-do list, the card style to-do list sounds really cool.
Okay. Anybody else have any opinions? Again, like I don't want this to be a lecture. Probably next time, since I'll start to be sitting there and like with you guys, and we'll be working on it together, and we'll have to figure out whether do we want to work on it. I guess we'll work on the start together, and then if we're interested, we can all split up into features so we can get it done faster and maybe do more interesting things. But otherwise, a lot of it is up to your interest. So, any questions or any suggestions or anything you didn't like about today, anything you liked about today? You can say them now to my face, or you can fill out the form, which is right here, if I can find it.
Oh, I had a question regarding the Discord.
Yep. Do you have a link? Or if I can.
Like, is it on you guys' Instagram picture?
Are you on the mailing list or?
I think so.
Okay, then it should be there somewhere. Otherwise, I can just invite you if you just come to me after. Why can't I open this? Okay, Google Drive is being weird. I'm clicking on this file and it's opening a different one. key. Okay. Here. Yeah, so we've done colon, Flutter, and Java, right? So I think we're going forward with colon. Oh yeah, you can go to anybody on Zoom need it. Otherwise, I'll just write it on the whiteboard.
Actually, just type in the chat. And then
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to type in chat and I can, yeah. So link tree slash GDSC underscore U. Okay. UMN-TC there. And if you go there, you'll see our Discord link and pretty much everything. Yep, sounds good. And if you can fill out a poll while you're here, that would be very much appreciated. Normally, I would say talk to your neighbors about how you feel about all three frameworks and so on and so forth, but you don't have a lot of neighbors today.
So we'll just talk next time.
Yeah. Cool. I think if you're done the poll, you're free to go. Our next workshop is in 2 weeks, and then our next workshop is in 2 weeks, right? Yep, yeah. So October 20th, we have a cloud study jam about cloud things. I don't know if I'll be there, but if you're interested about Google Cloud Platform or anything of the sort, feel free to come by. All the details will be on our Instagram. Probably will be sent out over Discord as well. And then in 2 weeks is when we'll start our, I guess, app lab, and we'll be working on the project that we're trying to work on, and it will be a little bit different since we'll be coding live, and I'll have to be looking up a lot of documents. So expect it to be, a little bit slower, but if you want to but it should be, I guess, a collaborative effort. The only thing I have to let you guys know is where to look things up and how to find things. And yeah, it'll be interesting, I think. All right. I'm just completely overpowered by the other room, I feel like. The background.